Welcome back, dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review, and we are joined here in the studio with Ms. Sama Essa, she's an international law expert. Good morning, Sama. And we start off from Al-Akhbar newspaper, and we read the following headline. President Sisi and President of Belarus inaugurate the Egyptian Belarusian Business Forum. President Fattah al-Sisi and President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, inaugurated on Monday the Egypt-Belarus Business Forum. During his speech to the forum, President Sisi stressed that cooperation between Egypt and Belarus has seen significant progress during the past period, especially after the last session of the joint committee that was held in Cairo last March. President Sisi said that the joint committee reflected the common desire between the two countries to enhance cooperation in all fields. He also said that he agreed with President Lukashenko to hold a new session of the Joint Committee as soon as possible to follow up discussions on ways to enhance various fields of cooperation and also to explore opportunities to achieve mutual benefit. So, Sama, what is the significance of this visit by President of Belarus, and what are the means of cooperation between the two countries?
With no doubt, it's a very positive news, and
Yes.
this visit will be beneficial for Egypt on different arena. And if we maximize our interest and potential with this country, it can have a really deep prospect over Egypt in different fields. But I'm hoping that we can take this into other levels. Like in the news you've just read, you've mentioned that they're going to transfer technological advancement and training skills. It's just an indicator that Egypt is still a good key player within the region, and it will encourage other countries also to follow Belarus steps.
And moving to Al-Yawm Al-Sabi, and we read President Fattah al-Sisi presides over the third meeting of the Supreme Council for Investment. President Fattah al-Sisi presided over the third meeting of the Supreme Council for Investment on Monday. The meeting tackled the executive position of the Council's second meeting, which was held on December 4th, 2016. Minister of Investment explained that the Cabinet has approved the final draft of the new investment law and sent it to the State Council for revision in preparation to send it to the House of Representatives. She added that the move comes within the framework of issuing the necessary legislations to implement the rest of the decisions taken during the two previous meetings of the Supreme Council for Investment. The Minister of Investment also reviewed the procedures taken to improve Egypt's rating in the concerned economic reports in order to raise Egypt's rating in the global investment indicators. So, to what extent the new investment law will help in attracting more investments?
First, it's very unfortunate the delay within the law. The absence of a law until now is creating a huge vacuum that's having consequences in the investment in Egypt. So it's like we're putting the car in front of the horse. We're doing it backwards. We're not doing it properly. So the delay is very unfortunate. So I hope they start legislating the laws as soon as possible, and they need to take in consideration that the laws has to be very attractive for foreign investors in ways with which it's easy for the investor to get their money in and out of the country. And also having one platform, because the process is very exhausting for foreign investors. They have to go for different arenas in order to get all the paper and the work done for starting off their business or their work. So we need to have one solo platform to ease the steps, and the laws has to be very attractive.
And moving to Al-Akhbar newspaper, and Prime Minister Sharif Ismail discusses bilateral cooperation with the President of Belarus. The Prime Minister met on Monday with the President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, to discuss ways to boost bilateral relations between the two countries and upgrade them in various fields to new horizons. The President welcomed President Lukashenko and his accompanying delegation and praised the distinguished relations linking both countries politically and economically. The Prime Minister reviewed the main features of the economic reform program, referring to the agreement reached by Egypt with the International Monetary Fund. So, Sam, to what extent this agreement will boost Egypt's economy and will open new horizons of cooperation between Egypt and other countries like Belarus and other
Well, when it comes to the IMF, it's a double-edged sword, because my problem personally with the IMF, because they have this reform that's one size fits all. Which is sometimes it needs to be tailored, because each country has its own circumstances. Some countries can like they can maintain or are having tolerance enough for the IMF conditions and reforms, and for other countries it's very harsh and tough. So it needs to be more tailored. For instance, cutting down subsidies for a country like Egypt or other countries can backfire.
Yes.
For instance, causing a rebel movement or revolution if people with a very high percent within the country are living under the edge with low income.
Yes.
So therefore, this is my concern regarding the IMF. It's like we're saying, we're still in the process, so time will tell.
And moving to Al Watan, and we read Minister of International Cooperation, Social Protection for Low-Income Citizens. Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Sahar Nasri, said on Monday that the government's economic program aims to comprehensively improve the climate of the economy in Egypt, achieve financial stability, reduce inflation, and increase growth and employment rates. Dr. Sahar Nasri noted that the Ministry of International Cooperation is working to support social measures in parallel with the economic reforms. She said, based on the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, that the social measures aim to achieve social protection for low-income citizens in order to limit the repercussions of the economic reforms. The minister's comments came during her participation in the Egypt-Belarus Business Forum, which was inaugurated on Monday. So how do you evaluate the ministry's effort to support the low-income, the Minister of Social Solidarity?
Of course, this effort is highly appreciated and this consideration, but it's a bit late. Like before, we're putting the Egyptian currency at risk of being determined by supply and demand. Maybe we needed to consider this part before putting those people under critical low income in such a situation, which triggered later on in Egypt within the shortage of sugar and goods. Plus, we are in a country where 90% of our incomes and goods comes from abroad. So these things need to be considered step ahead before this. But it's a very good step, and my concern is the delay. Like these protections need to happen as soon as possible, because there is a lot of people that are under low income, and the economic reform will take some time until we see prospect results.
And moving to Al-Yom Al-Sabah newspaper, and we read Roberts praise security measures in Hurghada International Airport, and the Russian delegation of experts ended on Monday that tour that lasted for 5 days, during which the delegation inspected the security measures at Hurghada International Airport. The visit comes in preparation for the return of the Russian tourism to Egypt in the coming period. The 7-member Russian security delegation praised security measures in the airport. The member of the delegation also praised the implementation of all security notes, especially the activation of a biometric identification system. They pointed out that they had a tour in the city of Hurghada and visited a number of places and expressed their full satisfaction with security measures and the situation inside the city. Governor of Red Sea Governorate General Ahmed Abdullah met with the delegation, and the meeting was attended by Consul General of Russia, head of the Red Sea Security Directorate, director of the Hurghada International Airport, as well as top officials from the Security Directorate and the airport. So do you expect Russia to resume its flights to Egypt in light of these visits by Russian security delegations?
As the news sound that they talked positively about the security measures within the airport, it should be expected, like by default, they will encourage their citizens to come in Egypt and tourists. And I hope this also have another very positive impact on the long run within having cooperations with Russia, as in the nuclear program, and then tourists will come. So it's very promising, and if the threat continues, it will be very beneficial, because there are other alliances within Russia and Egypt that can benefit the countries, such as the program.
And moving to Al-Wafd, the newspaper, and we read the Moody's expect Egyptian economy to grow by 4% in 2017. Moody's credit rating agency said that the Egyptian economy is expected to grow by 4% in 2017 and 4.5% in 2018, supported largely by private consumption as well as increasing public and private investment. Moody's also affirmed Egypt's rating with a stable outlook. In his meeting with 27 regional and global investment funds last week, President Sisi pointed out that the bold economic reforms taken by the government over past months reflect seriousness to face chronic problems suffered by the Egyptian economy for decades. So, what's your take on this report, and what is its impact on the performance of the economy?
First, like, I'm having my finger crossed. I hope so the predictions are correct and the reforms will have such a positive impact. But in Egypt right now, we're having a very unique situation. The country has not been exposed to before. Hence, we need also unique remedies and solutions. We need to look outside of the box. The traditional solutions were for traditional problems and the economic reforms that we were facing earlier in Egypt. But this situation is like no other. So we need ideas that are out of the box, which have a vision. This is my take on this. We need to consider ideas that are more creative to solve the problem.
Yes. And moving to Al-Yom Al-Saba newspaper, and we read Russian and Kazakh foreign ministers discuss preparations for Syria peace talks. The Russian Foreign Ministry said on Monday that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed preparations for the upcoming Syria peace talks with his Kazakh counterpart. Meanwhile, Syrian rebel groups said they have decided to attend the peace talks. Experts say the decision is a boost for a Russian-led initiative which is aimed at ending the nearly 6-year-old conflict. More about the situation in Syria and the peace talks in the coming report.
Syrian rebel groups have decided to attend peace talks backed by Russia and Turkey in Kazakhstan to press for full implementation of a ceasefire they say has been widely violated by the government and its Iranian-backed allies. Russia President Bashar al-Assad's most powerful ally set the new diplomatic effort in motion after Syrian rebels suffered a major defeat last month by losing control of districts of eastern Aleppo they had held for nearly 4 years. The United States, which led failed efforts to launch peace talks last year, has not been involved in the latest diplomacy. Assad has already said his government is ready to attend the talks. After winning ground with Russian and Iranian military support, he looks stronger than at any point in the war. The rebels took the decision at meetings underway in Ankara and are now working to form a delegation that will be headed by Mohammed Alloush, the head of the political office of Jaish al-Islam rebel group. He said the rebels were going to Astana to neutralize the criminal role of Iran. Analysts believe the rebels have been under pressure from Turkey, one of their main sponsors, to attend.
Welcome back. And now, Sama, what are your expectations for the upcoming Syria peace talks expected to be held in Astana soon?
Well, peace talks and negotiations and mediating is all very nice, positive words.
Yes.
But without a sense of obligation, it's just talk in the air.
Yes.
So they need to have a sense of obligation. A sense of obligation can be created within the international community with pressure. So we need as much countries on board involved in this as possible. For instance, the United States must be involved. Egypt, as a regional key player within the Middle East, needs to be involved within the peace talks in order to put pressure on those peace talks to have a sense of obligation. Because we can mediate and exhaust ourselves in efforts that will not be implemented in reality in Syria. Because within Syria we have rebels. In the news it said 100. The problem is that rebels and terrorist groups are mixed within each other. We have lots of rebels disguised where in reality they are terrorist groups.
Yes.
And we've reached this point where Bashar al-Assad and other countries are talking about peace talks because they've been weeping off the terrorist groups from its roots. So they need to carry on this act until negotiations are settled to reach the point of a peace talks that will be invested and manifested in reality. Not just something cliche where we get everyone on board and nothing has to be done.
And moving to Al-Wafd newspaper, and we read Egyptian bourse indices, and on a mixed note, The Egyptian Bourse's main index, EGX 30, ended its 4-day winning streak on Monday as it was down 0.17% to close at 13,264.82 points. The equal weight index, EGX 50, was also down 0.15% to close at 2,068.91 points, and the variable weight index, EGX 20, dropped 1.38% to close at 13,237.8 points. Meanwhile, the small and medium shares index, EGX 70, gained 0.95% to close at 477.37 points, while the broader index, EGX 100, added 0.29% to close at 1,158.71 points. Egyptian investors were net sellers with 158.1 million pounds, while Arab and foreign investors were net buyers with 9.7 million pounds and 148.4 million pounds respectively. So how do you see this performance of the stock markets?
Obviously, the economic reforms are starting to have a positive impact, and also within the foreign investors because of the weakness of the currency. And I think in the future it will get even better when we start to stabilize the dollar currency.
And moving to Al-Shuruq newspaper, and we read moderate weather expected on the north of the country. Meteorologists predict moderate weather to prevail Tuesday in the north of the country until the north of Upper Egypt, and warmer weather on the south of Upper Egypt during daytime, but it will be very cold at night, with temperatures in Cairo are expected to be 2010. Mist will affect visibility in the northern coast, the Delta and Cairo until the north of Upper Egypt. Medium and low level clouds are expected on the north of the country. Will be heading to northwest and will have light to medium power. Waves in the Mediterranean are expected to average between 1.5 and 2 meters high, while waves in the Red Sea are expected to average between 1 and 2 meters high, with northwestern wind on both seas. And dear viewers, this was our last news item in our press review for today. And I'd like to thank my guest for today, Ms. Sama Essa, international law expert. Thank you. And now we'll go for a short break, and we'll be back with the breakfast show, so stay tuned.